this special session on harnessing science, technology, and innovation to support structural transformation and LDC graduation. Let me also extend a special welcome to the ministers, heads of UN agencies, and other participants that are joining us virtually. This session, as you know, is contributing to the preparations for the UNLDC 5 conference that is scheduled for Doha, Qatar in January 2022. It will provide an opportunity to gain political momentum on science, technology, and innovation towards sustainable development and graduation of the LDCs. It will also provide an opportunity to identify the key priorities, principles, and approaches for LDCs to structurally transform their economies, build productive capacities, and develop STI policies that promote investment in STI towards graduation. It will also highlight the role that the private sector and the UN system can have in building productive capacities and harnessing science, technology, and innovation. The speakers for our session today include Ms. Amira Salsia Al-Jaba, Executive Secretary of the UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP, Ms. Isabel Durand, the Acting Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, His Excellency Dr. Bisyo Nath Pudel, Vice Chairman, National Planning Commission of Nepal, Professor Hassan Mandal, President of the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey, and last but not least, Ms. Tina Jabin, the Managing Director and CEO of Startup Bangladesh Limited. Let me also note that on the administrative side, this session will be 1 hour, and kindly request that virtual participants to mute their microphones when they're not speaking, and I encourage you to raise your questions using the chat function on this platform. At this point, let me invite Ms. Ali Jabana, the Executive Secretary of ESCAP, to deliver her opening remarks. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to speak at this special session of the Asia Pacific Regional Review Meeting on the implementation of the Istanbul Program of Action in preparation of the 5th UN Conference on LDCs. Harnessing the potential of science, technology, and innovation will be pivotal for LDCs to meet the ambitions of the Sustainable Development Goals and build back better from this COVID-19 pandemic with inclusiveness, resilience, and sustainability. To meet the ambitions of SDGs, we need to build technological and innovation capabilities that can solve the pressing economic, social, and environmental challenges of our time. LDC economies have been affected more than most by the pandemic. The crisis has also disproportionately affected marginalized communities and vulnerable groups such as women. Meeting this ambition will require governments to invest in the formulation and implementation of SDI policies that enable industrial development and build productive capacities. It will also require policies that go beyond economic imperatives to include social and environmental goals and leave no one behind. Such strategic policymaking can only be successful if implemented by a government that is courageous and ambitious, with leadership capable of seeing beyond short-term gains and committed to a long-term plan for national prosperity. The Asia-Pacific region has many examples of how SDI can lead to economic growth and inclusive and sustainable development. Among LDCs, Cambodia, Bangladesh, and Nepal are pioneering countries in this regard. The Royal Government of Cambodia established a clear vision by promoting SDI by establishing in 2020 the Ministry of Industry, Science, Technology, and Innovation, and recently adopting a roadmap that establishes the vision and ambition to leverage SDI for inclusive and sustainable development. Today, we will be hearing from His Excellency, Professor Chem Keith Reddy, Minister Delegate attached to Prime Minister, and Secretary of State of MISTI, who will be sharing more about Cambodia's approach to STI. It has been a pleasure and honor for ESCAP to partner with and support His Excellency on this STI journey. Bangladesh has put in place a range of policies and programs to harness digital technologies to transform the economy and how government works. And today we will be hearing from Ms. Tina Jabin on how the government is promoting technology startups and innovative financing to support entrepreneurs. Again, it has been a pleasure and honor for ESCAP to partner with and support Ms. Jabin on her innovative and ambitious endeavors. While in Nepal, we are working with fintech startups to provide access to finance to women entrepreneurs. And may I take this opportunity to thank His Excellency, Dr. Biswanath Pudel, for being a champion for innovation in Nepal and beyond. But the public sector cannot achieve this alone. Innovative transformation will also require a thriving private sector. Most technological solutions and innovations that can address SDGs are developed and diffused by the private sector. Yet businesses do not always have the incentives to develop, share, or market those solutions. Governments must support enabling business ecosystems that catalyze business innovations for SDGs. In this regard, government policies that enable and incentivize a shift from entrepreneurship to social entrepreneurship, business as usual to inclusive business, and investing for profit to investing for impact are urgently required. The international community also has a supportive role to play in the development of national STI capabilities in LDCs. And may I take this opportunity to thank our partners for this session, the UN Technology Bank and UNTAD, for their fruitful collaboration on promoting STI for inclusive and sustainable development. To support member states to build back better, ESCAP's STI work focuses on three core areas. First, we are working with governments to integrate inclusive and SDG dimension into STI policies. Second, we are supporting digital transformation. We are investing in digital solutions that provide access to finance and build digital skills. And we are working with governments on digital economy strategies with an inclusive lens. Third, we are supporting governments to promote business innovations to direct the private sector towards inclusive and sustainable development through policy measures to promote social enterprise, inclusive business, and impact investing. ESCAP has been supporting LDCs in the region in Asia Pacific to develop innovation policies and strategies for inclusive and sustainable development. ESCAP stands ready to continue to support LDCs on their journey to harness innovation for structural transformation and certainly graduation. Thank you all to our partners for joining us today to share your insights, thoughts, experience, and to all of you for your participation on what I'm sure will be an inspiring and solution-oriented session. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Al-Jabana, for that insightful contribution, and also, of course, for the strong support and partnership of ESCAP to our work. I will now give the floor to Ms. Isabel Durant, the Acting Secretary General of UNCTAD, to deliver her opening remarks. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, Chair. So, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, we know that 50 years after the creation of LDC category, pioneered by UNCTAD, the international context of LDCs has changed beyond recognition as a consequence of globalization, the emergence of global value chains, technological innovations, climate change, just to name a few. So yet many of the challenges that led to the creation of the LDC category in 1971 still linger today. The specific challenges at the origin of the creation of the LDC category 50 years ago, which persist today, include undeveloped technological capacities. As the world accelerates the transition to the fourth industrial revolution and the digital world, the technological and the digital gap between LDCs and other developing or developing countries is widening. Reversing the economic and technological marginalization of LDCs requires a new generation of international support measures to support the development of this country in the present decade. This is detailed in the forthcoming The Least Developed Countries Report 2021, the least developed countries in the post-COVID world, learning from 50 years of experience. That's a report that we will publish very soon. In the field of science, technology, and innovation, narrowing the gaps that separate LDCs from other countries requires decisive action by the international community to build and strengthen the technological capabilities of LDCs. And allow me to briefly outline some of the measures and initiatives that the international community can take to assist LDCs catching up with technologically more advanced countries. And that's really important in the perspective of LDC 5, expecting that this issue would be, of course, concretely not only wished, but also decided in the LDC 5 decision in January next year. First, the international community is invited to adopt a new initiative to strengthen the innovative capacity of LDC enterprises. Policies and programs to support LDC micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, also referred to as MSMEs, need to target the creation and expansion of viable, growth-oriented companies that have the potential to innovate and are capable of withstanding local and international competition. For that, they require technical assistance, financing, industrial and agricultural extension services, and also technological advice. This also means clearly separating entrepreneurship policy from poverty alleviation measure or income support. Too often, MSME support measures are used as disguised income support for unviable companies. Second, the international community should facilitate the sharing of knowledge and experience of science, technology, and innovation policymaking between other countries and LDCs by means North-South, South-South, and triangular cooperation. And just this morning, I was in a panel with Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Bhutan, explaining how they plan and they put in place their strategic plan on digitalization. And frankly, sharing experience with them would be really a way to help the LDC countries. These different types of partnership, of course, are complementary. Experiences of both successful but also failed initiatives provide lessons that help strengthening such policy-making capacity of LDCs. Third, development partners need to foster transfer of technology from home companies to LDC enterprise. This can include mainstreaming technology transfer in the design and implementation of investment promotion regimes for LDC, paying greater attention to voluntary and mandatory technology transfer measures in the context of sustainability standards, corporate social responsibility, and responsible business conduct. Promoting the diffusion of open source software and digital products, and creating a unified framework for the voluntary sharing of green technologies, specification, and related intellectual property information. Fourth, LDC development partners should mainstream science, technology, and innovation in infrastructure works they support, for instance, through ODA or blended finance. The aim is to strengthen local capabilities of design, engineering, logistics, mechanics, planning, construction, and maintenance in areas of transport, communication, energy, waterways, sanitation, just to name a few. Each project should have a component of purposeful capacity building on the side of local LDC agents. They can support not only infrastructure works themselves, but also have broader spillover effects that entail technological diffusion throughout the wider productive structure. And fifth, the international community should enhance technical assistance to LDCs to strengthen their policymakers' capacity of making use of TRIPS flexibilities for the purpose of boosting this country's technological capabilities. Only a few LDCs have cleverly used TRIPS exemptions to develop sophisticated industries like pharmaceuticals, which demonstrates that these flexibilities can be part of successful industrial policy strategies when they are properly leveraged. And finally, sixth, there is a need to prolong the application of the TRIPS flexibility for LDCs. And we welcome the recent WTO decision to extend the TRIPS transition period for LDCs until 2034. But we are of the view that these ISMs should be applied for as long as LDCs remain in the category to help them building a viable technological base. Moreover, development partners are invited to consider the extension of these flexibilities for several years beyond graduation. This is an element of smooth transition, which is one of the main focuses of attention of the international community now that the number of graduation cases is increasing. This is also a way of ensuring that graduating LDCs attain what UNCTAD terms graduation with momentum, which aims to ensure that the sustainable development process continue even after graduation. Ladies and gentlemen, assisting LDCs to narrow the technological gap with more advanced countries should be at the forefront of the new program of action for the LDCs and should be placed at the core of the strategies to build productive capacity to achieve structural transformation. These are the only ways to achieve graduation with momentum, and UNCTAD stands ready to accompany LDCs in this regard. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Durant. Let me also invite His Excellency Professor Shem Keith Reti, Minister Delegate attached to the Prime Minister and Secretary of State in the Ministry of Industry, Science, Technology and Innovation of Cambodia. You have the floor, Excellency. Minister, can you hear us? I think there is a connection challenge. While the Minister gets ready, let me move on to the next speaker on my list, and that is Dr. Bisho Nath Pudel, the Vice Chairman of the National Planning Commission of Nepal, to deliver his intervention. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Honorable Ministers, Executive Secretary of ESCAP, Acting Secretary General of UNCTAD, distinguished delegates. Let me begin by thanking the United Nations United Nations Technology Bank for the least developed countries, the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific, and the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development for organizing this special session. Science, technology, and innovations are the backbones of development process. However, all societies cannot reap the benefits of STI equally because of heterogeneity in the absorbing capacity and structural problems across the societies. Historically, the LDCs have been marginalized in all aspects of integration, connectivity, international trade, and scientific and technological development. Moreover, the current COVID-19 pandemic has hit the LDCs even harder, risking the reversal of the hard-earned technology development gains, including the fruit of digital connectivity. While every 9 out of 10 people have access to the internet in the advanced economy, only 2 out of 10 are online in the LDCs. People living in the LDCs are the least connected people with the internet. Furthermore, even this limited coverage of connection is marred by poor quality. Against this backdrop, the United Nations Technology Bank and other mechanisms that are particularly designed to assist LDCs to acquire foothold on science and technology for their accelerated development have to focus on not only the transfer of technology, but also on the creation of an entire ecosystem in LDCs for sustained development of science and technology. Mr. Moderator, science, technology, and innovation, STI, is important in promoting inclusive development and making the past achievement of SDGs irreversible while addressing the devastating impacts of COVID-19 pandemic in LDCs. It is crucial for achieving structural transformation, building productive capacities, bridging the digital gaps, and reducing the rising income and wealth inequalities. It is therefore an enabler for effective SDGs implementation and resilient recovery from the pandemic, while helping LDCs in building back a more equal and sustained world. Mr. Moderator, the LDCs have been short of the resources to invest. However, the combined efforts of various stakeholders can still contribute a lot in achieving the inclusive development and other targets associated with the SDGs. Appropriate economic policies have to be devised. Priorities must be carefully chosen in order to channel the available resources for achieving the balanced, sustained, and least cost trajectory of economic development. Due priorities should be given to invest adequate resources in digital literacy and infrastructure, scientific research, and innovation. The private sector has the equally important role to support the LDC graduation through the investment not only in the MSMEs but also in large-scale industries. The development partners and donor agencies have a strong role to address the gap through technology transfer and investment in STI and ICT. For example, the sharing of the intellectual property could have made the production and supply of COVID vaccine easier and more cost-effective during this pandemic. Besides the unimaginable COVID-19 pandemic, the 21st century will face the climate crisis and cyber crimes. Continued globally effective efforts are necessary to manage these challenges for sustained and balanced progress. No one should be left behind in this long journey. Mr. Moderator, the government of Nepal has recently unveiled the Digital Nepal framework and prioritized the digital technologies to drive accelerated growth. We encourage public and private sectors to invest in STI, ICT, to facilitate the investment, foreign investment and technology transfer act and ICT policy are in place. In Nepal, mobile cellular subscriptions are higher than 100%. The coverage of the mobile network by population is also more than 100%. Pandemic has provided the opportunity to use technologies in schools and colleges. Online classes have become regular business. However, the access to the internet is mostly limited to the urban areas. The infrastructure and equipment are not sufficient. We fear it will exacerbate urban-rural gap in the future. The government of Nepal will make all-out efforts to facilitate private sectors as well as local governments to provide the high-speed broadband connection to the population. For a sustained and irreversible graduation, LDCs like Nepal need scaled-up investment, not only to recover from hard-hit impacts of the pandemic, but also to connect it to the digitally advanced world so that development can be leapfrogged. In conclusion, the sound policy and investment plan for STI, backed by digital cooperation, technology transfer, and IP sharing are vital for structural transformation and smooth graduation of the LDCs. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Podal. Let me once again see if Minister Reti is available to join us. Can you hear me,
Yes,
Minister?
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you. You have the floor.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sorry Sorry for the glitch. First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel. Sorry, there's some noise there. Thank you for inviting me to be on this panel on SCI and LDC. It's a great pleasure to see also distinguished colleagues from the UN. Let me introduce myself. So, Reti Chem, I was a former Senior Director at the International Atomic Energy Agency, working on your side for 6 years, but now on this side, on the member state. And I'd like to take actually this opportunity to thank Mrs. Amida from ESCAP, who has been very supportive for Cambodia to develop our SCI roadmap. Just a brief history, Cambodia has been through turmoil for 3 decades, but recently, in just only the last 2 years, they, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, with his vision to bring Cambodia to reach a level of economic development at full development 2050, he believes and believe that STI is the only way for future economic growth. As such, 1.5 years ago, the Ministry of Industry and Handicraft has been upgraded to the Ministry of Industry, Science, Technology and Innovation. And I have been invited as a scientist and former scholars and UN to work with the ministry as a Secretary of State, means a Deputy Minister. And with this, we have been working very hard for the last year, just in 1 year. We have developed that STI roadmap with the support of ESCAP. We also work on a program called Go Sprint, with the support of UNESCO. And also we are working now on establishing a national STI research agenda. So with this policy framework in place, we are really driven to use STI as an instrument for collaboration and cooperation between various ministries and also private sector and academia. As a model for STI development, we are aiming at building a very robust ecosystem based on the classic triple helix model, which is the link between a university, industry, and government. All these are very, very first step. We want to make sure that the government will work closely with the academia to make sure that academia train STEM graduate to meet the demand of STI model for economic growth and industrialization. And number 2, we also work on linking government with the industry, looking at investment in infrastructure and also grant and different way to set up a proper research and development funding for the private sector. And also the link between university industry is taken up by the academia with the support of the government. So with this triple helix working in collaboration of government, industry, academia, we hope that we can harness all the power STI for the development of Cambodia. Currently, the main challenge for Cambodia is are 2. Number 1, in infrastructure, and for the government, it has been for the last 4 years a top priority to push Cambodia toward digital transformation. Many ministries are working on that with the lead of the National Economic Supreme National Economic Council, looking at the policy framework to develop and to push digital transformation with investment infrastructure and also training human resources. And the good thing for Cambodia is that the population is quite young. The demographic window is there. 70% of Cambodians are below the age of 30. So very quick adopter of technology. So increasing talent in STEM education is a priority for the last 5 years. So these are first points that I like to share with you. The facts that we are moving using different instruments in order to harness the potential and the power STI to boost our future economic growth, especially after the pandemic, where all of us need to adjust to the kind of a new norm and new normal. So how can investment in STI help in addressing major challenges for Cambodia as a country from the least developed country, particularly in terms of achieving sustainable development? First, I mentioned that STI in digital transformation, science and technology as a tool to solve a problem that are local, regional, and international level, global level. Cambodia cannot escape from climate changes, from the pandemic, but we have also our own challenge, water resource management, the problem with the Mekong River, how to co-manage the water resources when the Mekong travels many countries. Number two is we try to build a knowledge-based society, ensuring that there is a shift of the mindset. Policy is one thing, but changing mindset is important. How can we balance economic growth that makes sure that we have a balance between production and consumption? The concept of circular economy is very well known now among the top policymakers. In our ministry, we work closely with UNIDO, another UN organization. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank, to express gratitude to our government. We work on many programs on the implementation of some very practical projects that fit the circular economy in terms of protection, the environment and the environment degradation while developing our infrastructure. And green technology, everybody mentioned that. I will be brief, so that it's very important that every green technology is also part of the what the government doing to change the mindset of the industry, academia, and particularly of the whole population of Cambodia as a mindset. Improving transfer technology from industrialization, from foreign direct investment. When you start building a foreign company, build infrastructure or build a factory in Cambodia, we want to make sure that there is a transfer of technology that is proper. So improving the quality of our manpower is important. We need to upgrade the skills of our low skill working in the garment industry and agriculture, and also reskilling is important. And it doesn't it's not easy for Cambodia while we are trying to catch up, increase the diversify economy, increasing our value chain, that at the same time we need to retrain also low-level workers for Cambodia. And lastly, it's important that we invest certainly in education with STEM, but also we make sure that our population is in good health. And with the pandemic, it's an extra burden for our limited resources. However, we are very proud to show that according to the data, we are not too bad as a country that is least developed. For example, now we try to reach 80% of population with vaccination. They're getting there within just 1 year. And the population at the capital now is vaccinated at almost 100% through different vaccines. I take this opportunity to thank another international organization, WHO, through the COVAX program. We also thank the government of China through the vaccine diplomacy, but we bought a lot of vaccine from China also. And we call for all countries to be united in fighting against COVID. Vaccine nationalism should not be the priority. No country can be safe if other countries are still stricken by the pandemic. So we believe that multilateral collaboration, operation in fighting pandemics is the only solution for a better future for the entire population. Somebody also mentioned the One Health, investing in fighting human disease, animal diseases, and environmental disease. And Cambodia is putting a lot of energy to make sure that we can minimize the degradation of our environment while we try to develop infrastructure that are much needed for economic growth. And finally, it's tonight, for example, is part of our role of our ministry, working closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, promote science diplomacy or science, technology, innovation, and diplomacy. And it just by chance or by destiny that myself, being a Secretary of State at the Industry and Science Technology, but also as a minister in the Prime Minister's office, I have been seconded to work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It allows us to bridge science and diplomacy in a very effective way. So we work closely, for example, for SCI, we work in the regional cooperation for many decades already. It's called ASEAN COSTI, so the 10-country ASEAN with the Committee of Science and Technology and Innovation. We work certainly as with your witness all tonight with the traditional multilateral organization, the whole UN family. We work also with some regional agreement for trade agreement, for example, ESCAP that has been signed recently, regional comprehensive economic partnership, and also we are taking advantage of the initiative from the government China in the form of the Belt and Road Initiative. So with this, I would like just to sum up that Cambodia is up and running, trying to catch up with science and technology innovation as probably the only way to help going further, fighting diseases and building new capacity in order to cope with the new normal after the recovery from the pandemic. And with our young population and the drive and the decisive leadership of our Prime Minister of Royal Government, I believe that with your support, working with the UN, UNTAC, and all this initiative for STI in LDC, I believe the Cambodia will benefit, and we're looking at the future with a great hope. With this, I'd like to thank you for your attention and for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Reti, for that intervention. Let me then give the floor to Professor Hassan Mandel, the President of the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey. Professor Mandel, you have the floor.
Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey, shortly TÜBİTAK, and also the council member of the UN Technology Bank. It's a great pleasure to join this high-level roundtable session during the Asia Pacific Regional Review meeting on the implementation of the Istanbul Program of Action. As TÜBİTAK, we continue to emphasize that the true sustainable development requires a future where we transform the concepts of the LDCs. This transformation requires research and development and innovation to establish and discover the new potentials and the possibilities for smarter and more sustainable development. Harnessing the science, technology, and innovation is a central role in supporting the transformation and graduation of countries that are currently LDCs. In the process of building the domestic technological capacities through the R&D, it is important to emphasize that LDCs have a triple challenge: increasing the quantity and also the quality of the research and development resources, and also giving direction to research and development that will have the most impact on leapfrogging to sustainable development. According to the recent UNESCO science report, I think it's quite interesting. For example, low-income countries have an impressive 170% increase in the volume of the scientific output that relates cross-cutting strategies, technologies, including AI, energy, and materials. In addition, many low-income countries have shown increases in scientific outputs for SDGs relating to topics including photovoltaics, smart grid technologies, and also more climate-resistant crops. However, this progress is not still sufficient to support changing the direction to the sustainability. So it is also important to increase the multiplier effect of the R&D resources through co-creation based approaches. So in addition to the collaboration, to co-creation based approaches for an impact, and both across the ecosystem of countries as well as through international cooperation. The UN Technology Bank for LDCs that was established to enhance the contribution of science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development in the 46 LDCs is hosted at our campus at TÜBİTAK at Gebze in Turkey. We aim to support the aims of the UN Technology Bank for increasing economical self-reliance, sustainable access to health, technologies, climate mitigation, local skills development, sustainable industrialization, as well as education and academic cooperation, directly targeting the 8 of the SDGs. TÜBİTAK also signed a memorandum of understanding with the UN Technology Bank, together with the University Industrial Collaboration Center platform of Turkey, to collaborate in promoting technology transfer and accelerating the technology development in the LDCs. The collaboration involves supporting the projects and activities to increase the access to technologies and establishing technology transfer offices in the selected LDCs. We are also glad to have the UN Technology Bank, Third World Academy of Sciences, and the ICGEF partner in the program of collaborations with LDCs, shortly is called the PACTs, to offer early career scientists from the LDCs to research opportunities. So because we think that the human capacity improvement is the magic, the main parameter. So for technology development and the transfer to be long-lasting, raising human resources and strengthening the institutions are critical. For this reason, we place great value to opportunities for mobilizing the research and development and innovation ecosystem with an approach of co-creation instead of collaboration and succeeding together in Turkey and beyond. One of these approaches that can be fostered in LDCs in strengthening university industrial partnership for raising co-creation oriented human resources. And an example can be given as the industrial PhD program that we have been launched in Turkey, raises human resources in the areas that are demanded by the industry. The universities and industries come together on the specific areas to raise at least 3 PhD students per partnership. This also allows not only the collaboration for the co-creation, supporting a critical mass in the areas of the industrial need. In addition, I think it's also, which we think is quite unique program, in addition, support is provided for the employment of the doctoral researchers in the industry, in this relevant industry, in the relevant company for 3 years after the graduation. So it is a program of 4-year funding for PhD and afterwards 3 years during the employment stage. So LDCs can also develop a similar type of approach to raise co-creation oriented human resources while establishing solving the problems of the industry on the basis for the future of the university industrial collaboration. With these remarks, I express my support for the discussions in today's sessions while looking forward to the ongoing preparations for the 5th United Nations Conference in LDCs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mandela, for that intervention. Let me give the floor to our last speaker, Ms. Tina Jabin, a former Managing Director and CEO of Startup Bangladesh, to give us a perspective from the private sector. Tina, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. It is an absolute pleasure and an honor to be presenting in front of such a distinguished panel, and also a big thank you to all the attendees who have joined us. this is of course a very, very timely session where we are kind of convened here to discuss what are some of the initiatives that we as a whole can take so that we can promote and take forward some of the initiatives and the issues specifically from our perspective, because I work in the startup ecosystem, women empowerment, and also digital transformation and the issues of digital divide. So I just wanted to start with a very brief overview about what's happening from Bangladesh perspective. As I'm sure many of you know that Bangladesh has been showing tremendous growth and improvement over the last 12 years, especially over the last 12 years. And right now, the digital penetration is quite impressive. There is about 176 million mobile subscribers. Out of that, 121 million internet users, 110 million mobile internet users. And one of the reasons that there is such a very remarkable digital penetration is because one of the initiatives that was taken about 12 years ago, which is Digital Bangladesh Vision. And the areas where Digital Bangladesh focused on is the connectivity and infrastructure, a very big focus on e-governance, human resource development, and then ICT industry promotion. So during the last decade, what has happened is that with these specific areas, certain measures have been taken, and infrastructure development and e-governance, those are there. But I want to specifically comment on the measures on how technology created lots of jobs through supporting the startups. So Bangladesh government a few years ago, about 5 years ago, came up with the startup ecosystem policy. And I was very much involved in putting together the project called Innovation Design Entrepreneurship Academy, which is a grant project for startups. First ever, a pioneering initiative by the government of Bangladesh. And the idea was to assist the existing very, very nascent startup ecosystem, assist the startups with a grant money. And over the 5 years, it has been extremely encouraging, because when we started 5 years ago with this project under the ICT ministry, there was about 270 some startups. But now, after this journey, we have a very healthy about 1,200 startups, and also an ecosystem where very thriving, about 200 startups, new startups every year. And the other thing is, every single university is private, public, there is this awareness about entrepreneurship and startups. So quite impressive. And last year, Startup Bangladesh Limited, the first ever venture capital fund wholly owned by the government of Bangladesh, was formed, where I served as the managing director and CEO. And we also, in that fund, we have invested already in 7 startups. These are, from growth stage to seed stage. And, the number is small, but the message is very big. So what's happening is that with government enabling the startup ecosystem and the private players in the stakeholders in the ecosystem, it's giving a message globally, especially in the venture capital and PE industry, globally and specifically in Silicon Valley, that the government is very serious about making the startup ecosystem in Bangladesh, investing in technology in Bangladesh, a very serious commitment. Over the few years, we have already attracted 350 million international investment in this startup ecosystem. And the most impressive number is that in last 7 years, the startups have generated 1.5 million jobs, direct, indirect. And that is a big number. If you compare to the garments industry, where the job it's about 4.5 million. So it tells us that technology, investing in technology, digital business, using technology for e-commerce, logistics, supply chain, everything is extremely important, because for Bangladesh it's very important to create more jobs. And we are trying to diversify our export basket. So of course, there is a huge focus on freelancers. Bangladesh is one of the highest freelancer ecosystem or pool globally, and we want it to be a little bit more. The freelancers needs to be a little bit more, more technologically savvy. So that's fun. And the other thing that that has happened is in this year, 2020, this year, the perspective plan of Bangladesh 2021-2041 has been launched, and this is basically looking forward, where in 20 years Bangladesh wants to be a developed nation. And some of the verticals there is good governance, democratization, so that in 10 years we can become an upper middle income country by 2031. Decentralization, capacity building, very important, and ultimately become a high income country by 2041. The goal is for us to focus on industrialization of the export oriented industry, and big focus on agri-tech, so that we can increase productivity, and also to make each villages smart villages. And for all of this to happen, to bring the policy and the infrastructure together. So what is the role of technology in this? Obviously, we have to make sure that there is digital literacy. There is democratization of digital tools and access. And from startup perspective, it's very important that we are looking at supporting startups who are working towards impact in the society. So basically the impact investment, funding and network and whatnot. So we have been working very closely with UN ESCAP and some of the initiatives that has brought a lot of impact even in last 2 years. And one of them is the UN ESCAP Women Recovery Fund. The project started a couple of years ago, and we had the opportunity to partnership with this project where ESCAP funded startups where who are working with empowering women financially. So some of these startups, one is a startup which works with livestock farmers, and it's called iFarmer, and they have generated like thousands and thousands of jobs. The other one is Shadhin, Ramani. So all of these are, creating jobs and specifically empowering women. So very much a very important vertical focus area for Bangladesh, because we do want gender parity, women financial empowerment and such. The other thing is the focus on agri-tech startups. So agri-tech startups and also edu-tech startups. As you know that due to COVID, a lot of all the educational institutions were closed, but the startups, there are about 25 some startups who prepared all the national curriculum classes for the education ministry. So that is a huge feat for our startups. And what we want is, looking forward, as a partnership is, obviously the knowledge transfer, so that, we can access the network of all the UN agencies, which is going to specifically assist our startup industry in education technology, mental well-being, agri-tech, and things like that. And also, we would like to look into partnership with UN Tech Bank so that, we can work on digital literacy. And the other one is, the digital access affordability. So I do look forward to work with, all the agencies here and participate in any future collaboration. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jabin, for that insightful intervention on the private sector perspective. We have just over 5 minutes left on the allocated time, and I would like to open the floor to interventions. And I have a list in front of me of requests for the floor. Let me give the floor first to Ambassador Ligoya of Malawi to make his intervention. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Sitiba, Chair, for giving me the floor. I'll be brief. You have only five minutes. I want to say congratulations to you and the Tech Bank. It's been 3 years almost. You have been there, and the work you have done so far is very, very encouraging. And once again, congratulations. In the capacity development in biotechnology in LDCs, which you are doing, you are undertaking technology needs assessment in LDCs, including my own country, Malawi. You are providing scholarships on industrial designs. And I was very, very glad to hear that with the pandemic, you were also involved in the production of masks in Costa Rica. You see, you have done a lot within a very short period, and I want to invite all universities. Even you have partnered with universities in my own country, in the Faculty of Science and Technology. There is a lot more that you will do, I know. My worry is that, we don't have enough resources. We have to partner with many institutions to make or to achieve what we would want to achieve. The Technology Bank was the creation of the LDC4, and the need there was to create this bank to come up with ways of assisting us in appropriate technologies. And now, appropriate technologies, I'm talking about, for example, agricultural technology. If we want to increase our productivity in agriculture, we cannot rely on using the simple hoe. We have to use machinery. We are talking about green recovery to build back better. These are areas I know very well that you have very good ideas. It has been said by UNCTAD, we need the transfer, so transferring of technology is vital. The digital divide, which is ever increasing, has to be bridged. And I know the Technology Bank has the capacity to provide solutions for our countries. Look at the TRIPS waiver by the WTO. It is there for LDCs, but we are not able to utilize it fully because we don't have the capacity. So I really encourage all our friendly governments, UN agencies, and I'm very glad to hear the experiences of our colleagues in Asia Pacific, how they're doing. It's encouraging, but we need to do more. Once again, congratulations, and I want to invite our fellow governments and universities and institutions to partner with the Technology Bank. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Let me now invite our colleague from UN Women to make an intervention. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. My intervention on science, technology, and innovation is related to the heterogeneity and therefore inequalities that exist between citizens in a country. In terms of, I've been on the ground, deep in rural communities. What we see in terms of the heterogeneity is urban, rural, men, women, young and old, rich, poor, literate, illiterate, and even those on the national grid, those who are off the national grid, even those who have no access to electricity. And then technology today is most often associated with computers, Android phones, intelligent systems, data analytics, internet connectivity, you name it. How do we then ensure that STI-related investments are indeed pro-poor and takes into account this heterogeneity I just mentioned amongst people? This is a plea. If not, some segments of society will be pushed further and further behind, thereby deepening the inequalities between people and hampering their rights to development. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that intervention. Let me now give the floor to the representative of the Office of Commission for Human Rights.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Access to technology, science, and innovation in LDCs is still a major challenge. LDCs need support from the international community to close technology gaps and address digital divides, keep up the rapid technology change, and make progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and realizing human rights, including the right to development, economic, social, and cultural rights, and even some civil and political rights, such as freedom of expression. The open-ended Intergovernmental Working Group on the Right to Development considers knowledge a public good and a key instrument for development. It also considers that transfer of technology in development partnerships should respect the right of everyone to benefit from scientific progress and its applications. And these include the groups mentioned by the representative of UN Women. From a right to development perspective, transfer of technology should ensure the fair distribution of benefits for all in relationship to technology development. As mentioned in the 2019 Human Rights Council Report 42 and 29, the joint report on the right to development, the Technology Bank has the potential to provide an important contribution to the realization of the right to development in these developed countries. The 2020 report on the right to development by the High Commission, the Secretary General, report 45/21, referenced the Tech Access Initiative of the Technology Bank in partnership with UNDP, WHO, and UNCTAD, which supports developing countries in scaling up local production of critical health technologies needed to combat COVID-19, including personal protective equipment and the diagnostic and medical device. We're happy to confirm, Mr. Chair, that you, the co-chair of the session, Mr. Satipa, will be one of the speakers in the next Human Rights Council Social Forum, speaking in the panel Overcoming Global Challenges Towards Recovering Better on 12 October. So we invite all those present to also attend that session. And to finalize, I'd like to pose a question to Ms. Tina Jabin, the Managing Director and CEO of Startup Bangladesh Limited. I was very interested in your presentation, and based on your experience, how can we foster an enabling environment for startups that promote access to technology by women and by historically discriminated groups in other LDCs? Could you provide us some insights on that? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that intervention. Let me give the floor to Ms. Jabin to respond to the question posed, and also use this to give us a 1-minute closing remark, and which could also reflect on some of the issues that have been raised in by the 3 previous interventions. Thank you very much. You have the floor, Tina.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the question. I think that one of the things that we should be looking into is that, to bring more of a gender lens-based programs, and that can be in the startup sector, that can be gender lens-based financing. And I do welcome the feedback and support in whichever ways from the distinguished platforms who are present here. The other thing is, we are already doing something like that, a gender-based financing in Startup Bangladesh Limited, but that is not enough. I think that we need to make sure that government is always the enabler, and platforms such as who are present here can bring in the other very, very strong stakeholders and bring programs in Bangladesh and other LDC countries, so we can work in the women empowerment area. The second thing is, we have to create a social environment where the minority groups and the women specifically can really work. A woman who has an electrical engineering degree can really go back to work after, having a family and whatnot. So I do like to, again, welcome feedback and potential areas of partnership, so that together, the have and the have-nots can flourish in the new world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tina. Let me invite Professor Mandela to give us his concluding observations. Professor Mandela, you have the floor.
Thank you. So, as I shared during the, in previous opening remarks, just very shortly also, harnessing the science, technology, and innovation is the critical framework for transforming and graduating the LDCs for a more sustainable future. Through sharing of experiences and developing the new solutions, we see our collaboration with UN Technology Bank to be highly promising in this respect. So increasing the capacity for establishing technology transfer offices in the selected LDCs will also support the network in which the UN Technology Bank operates. So in addition, we are glad to our collaboration together with the Technology Bank and the University Industry Collaboration Platform of Turkey will support the assessment, deployment, adaptation, and implementation of technologies and relating capacity building activities in LDCs, which we think that it's essential for graduating to more countries from in this class in the near future. So there are multiple opportunities for working together with LDCs for a transformed future, and we will continue our efforts in this direction. And in working together, we also look forward to emphasizing R&D resources toward forming the impact. So thank you once again, and greetings to all colleagues and participants in this session, and especially to you, Mr. Satipa.
Thank you very much, Professor Mandela. Let me now give the floor to Dr. Podell to give us his closing observations. Okay, perhaps we should move on to the next speaker on my list, and that is Dr. Reti. Dr. Reti, you have the floor. 1 minute for observations.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, a delight to be here to learn from this multilateral collaboration and cooperation. I have only one word. I'm delighted to see that there is intense activity of cooperation trying to use SCI to promote further development, social and economic development for LDC. And may I take this opportunity on behalf of the Royal Government Cambodia to wish the Technology Bank to give a noble mission so that many countries can benefit from the bank's activity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me now give the floor to Ms. Isabella Durant to give us her closing observations also.
I will be very short because a lot of things were said, and just as it was just said, I think that this multilateral cooperation is totally key. Count on UNCTAD, on STI, supporting all the issues related to use innovation for development, which is really key. And we will stay with you, but also with all UN partners in order trying to really elevate the capacities and the possibilities for LDCs to really benefit of innovation. That is really our goal, and count on us.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Ms. Ali Jabana to conclude and give us some thoughts on what she's had. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chair, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank to all speakers. It has been a great insights. You've provided great insights as well as concrete examples in the respective countries. And several key takeaways, if I may, just quickly. So the importance of an overarching framework in this regard is the example from Cambodia, the STI roadmap, as well as enabling environment for innovation, and of course, concrete initiatives and projects by way of startup. Again, several of the speakers alluded earlier. And last but not least is lessons learned, especially across countries in which certainly LDCs can benefit significantly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Let me also, on behalf of the Technology Bank, thank our partners in organizing this session: UNCTAD, ESCAP, the government of Turkey, who provided the financial support towards this event, and also reaffirm the Technology Bank's commitment to working in partnership with other partners within the UN system and also in the private sector and in the academic world to ensure that the 5th UN conference in January next year is a success. A success not only in the eloquent statements and also the reports that will come out of it, but also a success in delivering real impact for the LDCs. Over the last 2.5 years, we have worked through partnerships, and we will continue to build those partnerships because that's where our strength lies. We are working with other partners, for example, on the issue of mainstreaming gender in our work. We have been working with IDRC Canada in looking how we can enhance access to finance for women-led entrepreneurs. We've done some pilot work in Cambodia, in Ethiopia, and in Senegal, and we're going to expand that in other LDCs. These are very important issues because it would be unfortunate if, in trying to bridge the digital divide between the LDCs and the rest of the world, we actually contribute towards the widening of the divide within society, whereby the vulnerable groups are left behind while the rest of the society moves forward. So it is a responsibility that we'll continue to pay special attention to, and we'll continue to work with you in ensuring that the Technology Bank delivers on its mandate. And we look forward to working with you as we prepare for the 5th UN conference and also as we prepare for other major events that are coming up. The UN Food System Summit is coming up. Food security issues are very central to achieving the SDGs. So we'll continue to build these partnerships. And I thank you very much for participating in this event. And we look forward to seeing you in our next event. Thank you very much.